Welcome friends, welcome back to Sunday morning in the Old Cookbook Show. Today we're going to do something out of the Metropolitan Cookbook, and this was published by the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company in 1918. And this book in my collection of old cookbooks, this book is a little bit different in that most of the cookbooks I have from this era are mainly desserts, predominantly desserts. It seems that almost everybody knew how to cook dinner. They knew how to cook some meat, they knew how to cook some vegetables, they knew what those dishes were, and it was really only baking that they needed help with, or ideas, or that they needed the formulas written down. This book, however, is probably half and half baked goods, baking, and savory dishes. And so today we're going to do corn chowder. And overall, I like this corn chowder recipe. I think it's great, but there are a couple of things that I want to do differently just because I think it will enhance the flavor. So it says to start out with salt pork. Salt pork is one of those things that you see less and less of these days. I know that if I drove all over the city of Toronto for a couple hours, I would find it. I know that it's out there. I know you can get it. You just don't see it at the regular supermarket all that often. So why not use what's already in your fridge? And for me, that is this guanciale that we made ourselves. So I've got a piece of guanciale. It is very close to salt pork in that it's mostly fat and it's salty. But of course, if you don't have salt pork or guanciale, because why would you? Bacon. Just go ahead and use bacon. Or, pancetta would work really well as well. So it says to cut this up into small pieces. So let's get that done. Now it says to fry this out in a pan over a slow fire. And the idea is that really all they want out of the salt pork, or in this case, guanciale or bacon, is the fat. They just want the fat out of it. They're not interested in the meat. And the same goes with the onion I'm about to slice up. I would say that if you were making this like I am with guanciale or pancetta or bacon, that this is the part of the recipe I would change, and this is the part of the recipe I'm going to change. Instead of frying it out in a separate pan with the onion and then just transferring the fat over as flavoring for the eventual soup, I'm just going to fry it all in the soup pot and leave it in, because I think leaving it in is going to be better. I think it's going to bring more flavor, and why throw away meat? And same with the onion. I would leave it in because I think the onion is going to all the way through add flavor. So, got this over a low fire. The next thing I'm going to do is freak out all the food safety people, and I'm going to cut my vegetables on the same cutting board. And here's why. This poses absolutely no risk of cross-contamination. That guanciale I used doesn't need to be cooked. You could eat that straight off without cooking it. So it is as safe as this onion. The second point is this onion and those potatoes are all going to go in that frying pan. They're going to get fried, they're going to get boiled, they're going to get cooked, all to a safe temperature. So since everything is going into that pan to be cooked, there is no risk of cross-contamination. Now, of course, if I was having a salad with this, I wouldn't make my salad on this cutting board. That's cross-contamination. So in this case, there is no risk. Just want to get that out there because I know YouTube commenters can be savage, especially when they've only got part of the information. So, on with the onion. Okay, the fat is rendering out, so in goes the onion. Now the recipe says 4 potatoes, but it doesn't say what size potatoes. And I kind of think that these potatoes are a little on the small side. So I'm going to do probably 2 or 2.5 of these potatoes for each of the potatoes in the recipe. And it just says to cut them into 1/2-inch slices. So I'll get them cut up, and by then the onions should be ready. Okay, it looks like the onions are pretty much good to go, and I've got the potatoes all chopped up. So now we add the potatoes to the pot. And then it says to add hot water, but it doesn't say how much hot water, so I'm assuming just enough to cover the potatoes and get them to cook through, because the next operation is to cook them until they're soft. So, in with some boiling water. That's probably good, and we'll bring that to a boil. The potatoes have softened up nicely, and you definitely want to use just enough water to cover them when they cook. This has provided me with a really nice, thick, starchy water for the rest of the soup. Now, in goes the corn. It says 1 can of corn. No can size, of course, and I don't know what can size was prevalent at that point in 1918, wherever this was published. It could have been all over the map. I'm using frozen corn because we don't have canned corn. And the next thing that goes in is milk. And it says 1 quart of milk, and I don't know that I've got quite enough in here. I may finish the bag. I'm going to say that was about a quart, just about a liter. So we stir this in and we bring it up to a boil. It'll thicken up a little bit. It also says at this point to add salt and pepper. So in a good sprinkling of pepper, and I'm going to go light on the salt because I know that both the salt pork or the guanciale that we used is pretty salty. So temper it carefully. Give it a stir and we're pretty much ready to go. Hey, Jules.
Hey, Glenn. Hey, friends.
We need spoons.
Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Okay, so this is from the Metropolitan Cookbook, Metropolitan Life.
Oh, there you go. Just generally cream soups?
There's a whole bunch of different soups in here, but this one is the corn chowder.
Oh, very good. I like corn chowder. Because, of course, we have a favorite corn chowder.
Yeah. Now, there's a few things that the recipe doesn't mention that I would do differently next time. Mm-hmm. There's a few things that I knew I was doing wrong, but those are the ingredients I had, so you make do.
Yeah, it's a little thin.
Mm-hmm. It definitely is thin. Part of that is it didn't tell me how much water to use, so I guessed. And when I was cooking it, I thought I was right. But I probably could have used less water than I put in. And it's said to put in a quart of milk, which is about a liter. And I put that in, and I probably could have put in less still. And I also think that milk is probably a little too thin for a chowder. I would have put in some cream. But
it down.
But since it asked for milk, I put the milk in. But otherwise, I think the flavor's okay. I mean,
it's okay. It's kind of bland. I got to tell you, I think it's a little bland.
It is lacking for today's palate. Yes, definitely. I'd sprinkle some cheese on top. That might bring it up a little bit. I would put in some cream. I would put in some other seasoning. There's definitely other seasonings that would go into this. So, you know, it's a fairly good starting point for another soup.
Now, when you post the recipe, will you post it with the better water, or are you going to post it as is?
I'm going to post it as is, and everybody at home can kind of look at it and go, you know what, this is what I would change. I would add a little more vegetable. I would add, could use with a lot more corn. You could probably use a drier potato, like a floury potato. The ones we had are a little bit on the waxy side, which didn't give enough body to the soup. Put in some cream, maybe not all cream, maybe half cream, half milk. And then hot sauce, cheese at the end.
Hot sauce.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, out of the book, not an award-winning recipe off the top, but the good bones to take it somewhere else. Definitely.
Start of a good recipe.
Yep. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.